Alright, well I'm going to start with this castle nut here. You probably can't see it from the view I've given you, unfortunately. But it's obnoxiously rusty. Really, really bad. And the cotter pin just decided it was going to shear itself. So we're going to try these Nipex I got. They'll loosen it up, or just rip everything off. Nope. Well, we might have a quick rain shower here. I'm going to try. So our caliper pins. Almost new pads. This is a no-no, but since I'm not reusing the hose really, letting it hang ain't gonna hurt much, if anything. Alright guys, we missed some there, but what was going on is up in the engine bay, taking this apart, this nut wasn't coming off because the shaft was spinning, as you can see. You can put something in here to hold it and take it off with a wrench, but that's kind of annoying, and since I'm not using any of the strut mounting hardware at all, and you can see the play in that too, I just took these three off so it would slide down the shock tower. And this goes on top of the shock tower. So, one strut down. These springs aren't holding in here by much. And typically this is a no-no. But on these cars you can do it. Because there's literally whatever tension you get on your bushings holding these up. I'm kind of glad I'm doing this because this spring is coming out in two pieces. Or one piece may be permanently fused to the control arm. Yeah. We're going to call that permanently fused. But you see a broken spring here, and the rest is in there. So, good news that we're getting this done finally. So one bolt's out, we're going to get the second one out here. Same process. These are usually the hardest ones to do in this whole swap. But these are actually coming out pretty decent. And finally, there's your control arm and spindle. Now the rack has this weird boot on it, a weird clamp on the boot, a little nub here. Put a screwdriver in or twist and it'll pop right off. And you can put them back on with normal band clamps. I'll have to get one. And there we go. Now I need to reuse this boot, so that's got to come off. Okay, we're back, and I cut it right there, and that works great. So there's an inner tie rod. Well, now we got the new one to deal with. Got those holes. Just line one of them up, don't matter which really. See how much tighter that is. One of those up with the hole in the shaft. This kit comes with roll pins. Actually, it looks like there's 3 roll pins. So you put a roll pin in each of the holes. In this particular case, the old one's an aluminum pin. This is just a steel roll pin. Actually, what works really well is Harbor Freight wire cutters. I put it right in the top there to hold it. It actually worked out very, very well. Now, if you're just replacing these on your own, you need to count your turns and mark where everything was. But since I'm replacing everything else anyway, it's going to need a little bit of an alignment, and it's not going to make a difference, unfortunately, if I try to get it close or not. So this boot's going to go back on. There's this metal tube. goes across to the other boot. We're going to slide that back in. I have to get the hose clamp for the boot later. Okay, here's another spring. Little bit different. The stock one is obviously 93 4-cylinder, which shows you your drag racing springs. They're nice and soft. This one here is a 94-95 GT spring. It's a little tall, so what you got to do is you got to force it in. This becomes a little bit of a challenge once in a while, especially when you mount your control arm the right way. You lower it way down and you tighten the bolts, it's really easy to get this spring in. Alright, there's half a coil out of this. You can get yourself a coil spring compressor if you don't feel comfortable or safe doing it the way I am. The main reason I cut the coil out because I realized how much of a pain it's going to be to get these in and out and in and out. And I wanted to cut a coil anyway, or half the coil in this case, to get a little bit of drop out of it. It's going to provide at least half an inch to an inch drop. The last one I had about 2.5 inches of drop with one coil cut out of it, one full coil. So, that being said, should be a little better option for me, and it should be easier to put in. See how much easier that half a coil was? And there's a little pocket here. The end of the coil goes into the little pocket, just so you know. So after that, now we have a ball joint. Now if you keep the stock 93 lower control arms, there's a special taper spacer here for the ball joint you would need to use to go to the Sn95 spindles. However, I'm going Sn95 the whole way around, so that won't be of concern. spindle assembly. Slide it onto your ball joint and get it in place. It's actually a locking nut. You can see by the 3 little parts in the weird dent in the threads. So once you put it on, it's on. I might be able to run it on with the gun. Okay. I know, it's not an impact extension. It's Harbor Freight and it's a wobble. It's what was in reach. And that'll be fine. That gun's really powerful, so if you do that at home, make sure you're better equipped or something to that extent. So now we have on to the wonderful struts. They are not side specific. These are also 94, 95 GT struts. We've taken all the hardware off the top for this moment. Want to save this one because we're doing a caster camber plate thing. The bushing and rubber parts, they're trash. So your shaft looks good, and I already tested them for functionality, so they function. Now if you're going to keep Foxbody struts, the mounting gear is wider. So you will have to deal with that. They make these kind of like spacers for that you can use. So yeah, spacers are a thing there. Now I'm just going to get this roughly in place. And ideally, you want to put your bolts coming in from the front. There we go. That way, if it does loosen up, then you lose a nut, not the whole bolt. I'm not sure if it's practical or realistic, but that's what I've always gone on. So, I think next is the caster camber plates. I'm going to get that up just a little bit more. There we go. And time for caster camber plates. Alright YouTube, this might be a little challenging to see, but you see the strut rods poking up through here. The strut tower brace is kind of in the way, but it looks like everything's going to fit. These lines you got to be very careful of. I think some of the GTs actually had a wiring harness in here, so just one of those extra things to be cautious of. This is your caster camber plate, and it comes with this bottom piece. Bottom piece goes up from underneath through the factory holes, while the nice shiny aluminum part sits on top now. We have different spacers too, as you can see. I'm going to put the big one on the bottom. You're just really checking what's going to fit. So, yeah, that's about all it is, what's going to fit. The big one's going on the bottom. And the small one's going to go on the top. And that's just isolating the bearing. So, now our plate's in place. Go underneath and put our bolt retainer in place. If I can even see what I'm doing. Okay, well I'm going to go under and do that. I'm also going to jack the strut up some. So you can keep an eye out for that. Okay, so everything holds in place fairly well. We can put spacer on top. And then the factory nut, which is kind of obnoxious here in my opinion, honestly. It's a very wide flange for this. Should have probably had another washer in the kit. It's what you get when you buy the cheapest possible eBay caster camber plates, but they were red and the car's red, so, you know, why don't we ricer it up and buy the cheapest possible thing off of eBay and see how it works. I've ran the BBKs before and they're pretty nice. I've had great reviews of the Maximum Motorsports. They were on my purchase list when I got rid of the last car, honestly, just to have that upgrade. But pretty much there you go, that's what it is. Now I'm going to center this. Its anodizing isn't too great either. Try to center as good as you can, and then start tightening things down. Now obviously you have a little side-to-side movement here, front to back movement here, side to side here. So you loosen these nuts up that I'm currently tightening down, the 3 of them. You're gonna get your camber adjustment there, and then the Allen heads are gonna be your caster adjustment. So I'm gonna leave full back caster because that was locked down, and we'll deal with it on the alignment. But we're gonna try to get the camber at least halfway. Okay, they're all snug down. Now all we got to do is the big nut on the top here, which is always a fun one to do. So as you can see, clearly spinning the shaft there. A little anti-seize and a little pressure sometimes helps, so we're going to start with the pressure. So that means we're doing it old school. Wrench and a screwdriver. Just putting it together, this usually works pretty good. Taking it apart is 50-50. A lot of later model cars went to a slightly different design. Went to a slightly different design that used a hex on top. But I fidget with this and try to see what's going on. Probably turn the camera off and we'll just assume this got tightened. So you have 1, 2, 3 bolts here, and then these 2 Allens, they need to tighten them, if not, not. You have your short spacer on top, long spacer on bottom. Main thing you want to make sure is that this dust boot on the strut isn't pushing up and actually taking up the plate. You want to actually be on the shaft of the strut. That's why the long spacer went on the bottom in this case. So yeah, I think it just maybe need to clean it up a little. So we'll see what we got here.